Okay, I just wanted to take some quick video of the Yiynova 19-inch tablet monitor. I'm waiting on a DVI to VGA adapter in order to be able to use it with my Mac Pro, but in the meantime I thought I'd show you some of the difference in physicality between it and the Cintiq 20WSX. First, and probably most noticeable even on film, is the fact that the 19-inch Yiynova, which is the MSP19, has a glass top to the display, whereas the Cintiq has an acrylic plastic top. You can see how there's kind of a dull glare to the Cintiq, and that actually translates into the artwork on screen. I found that the Cintiq has a much muddier display than I care for, to the point where I actually took my Cintiq display off and scraped the anti-glare coating off the back in an effort to recapture some of that visual fidelity and color. It did, but it was a pain in the butt, and it's still not all that fantastic. The overall screen size on the Cintiq, it's a 20-inch monitor, whereas the Yiynova is a 19. The width to height on this is just about 16 by 10 inches, so it's almost like a true analog to 16 by 10 aspect ratios. And then this one is just a little under 11 by 17. It's like 11 by 16 point some odd something. So they're fairly analogous. Now, that's interesting considering the scope of these two displays, though, in terms of overall size, because the Yiynova is much smaller. The shell is smaller. It's much lower to the table, which means less reaching while you're drawing, and I can attest to the fact that any amount of lessening the distance between you and the tablet display is very welcome when you're working on it for multiple hours a day. The other interesting thing is that the Yiynova actually folds down much lower than the Cintiq. Let me see if I can do that one-handed here, which is super nice. Large advantage of that being that if you're used to hunching over a drafting table, you can set it to whatever your preference is, whereas with the Cintiq, it doesn't go quite as low. Another thing, aside from the large bezel on the Cintiq, is the fact that the Yiynova is a heck of a lot lighter. And the nice thing about that is I can essentially use it the same way I would a drawing board in my lap. So I've got this just resting on my legs right now, and I can draw on it the same way I would at my drafting table or something like that. And that's actually quite nice for me. It's one thing I really lamented about the Cintiq was the fact that it was very heavy, and that could not be done without some real elbow grease. But this is light enough that it's really not that big of a deal. I just pick it up and set it down, and it's good to go. So that's nice. Styli-wise, the respective styli, the Yiynova is on the right. It's a little bit thicker at its narrowest point, but thinner at its thickest. I was afraid the chunkiness of the battery and the pen might be a problem, but as you can see at its thickest, the Cintiq is actually thicker at its thickest point. It's a little shorter. It actually feels pretty good in hand. I kind of like that it's shorter because it allows for an underhand grip, which is something that was kind of a pain to do with the Cintiq. You'd end up kind of doing a monkey paw with it. So I do like that. The tip, it feels a little springier. It almost feels like the spring-loaded brush tip option in the Cintiq stylus. So that's kind of interesting. Drawing on the glass, even just testing it here before I was able to hook it up to the Mac Pro, and I have some experience with that thanks to the 10.1-inch Yiynova display that I picked up the other day. Feels a little bit better to me than drawing on the plastic. I would say so far the most obvious negative that the Yiynova has going for it is the distance between the glass and the LCD is a little bit steeper than it is on the Cintiq. And now, mind you, with the Cintiq, I've actually taken this apart and reduced the amount of packing between the screen and the glass, and reduced it by about an eighth of an inch, maybe a 16th, probably not a full eighth, but somewhere in between a 16th and an eighth of an inch. And so that helps this a little bit. I would say that this is probably about a 15-20% more distance between the stock glass of the Cintiq and the screen. and the Yiynova and its screen. But again, you're talking $500 for this. When I bought this, it was about $2,500, and the equivalent Cintiq, the current one, that's the 20-inch model, is again similarly priced. So you're talking quite a difference in terms of cost, and I think the value proposition is better on this, assuming it all works once it's hooked up. So it does have a VGA out. Unlike the 10-inch, it is powered by the power brick here. It has one other interesting thing, which is a secondary VGA port for just hook up to like a projector or something, if you wanted to project this around at a conference or something. And I've done that before, so that's kind of neat. Looking forward to playing with that. But yeah, I mean, overall, so far, fit and finish, it doesn't feel chintzy. If anything, it's thinner and lighter and more maneuverable than the Cintiq, which is nice. I do have the optional tilt stand on it. Mine shipped with it. I don't know that they all do. But overall, so far, until I can hook it up, first impressions in terms of the bulkiness of the hardware, the feel of, you know, the little rubber feet. They don't feel like they're cheap and are going to fall off. Overall, so far, so good. So hopefully I hook it up tomorrow and it works just as well as the 10-inch did. And if it does, then I think it's a totally viable, low-cost, high-value proposition competitor to the Cintiq. Thanks.